Alright everybody, so my name is Christian Theilemann. I'm a senior software engineer at Solvvy, and which is like a 50-person startup. And as Eric was already saying, we're one of the relatively early customers of Pulumi. We started using it in August last year, and we use it for almost everything on our infrastructure in production since about January. And I just want to talk a little bit how we use it, why we use it, and what are some of the best practices we learned over time. So about me, I'm a senior software engineer. I focus mostly on infrastructure and platforms. So I make most of our tooling decisions, provision the infrastructure, and make the rest of our engineers a bit more efficient. But by background, I'm actually like a full-stack engineer. I work a lot on web apps and stuff like that, and I just happen to work a lot on the infrastructure the last year or so. Quickly about Solvvy, so we're a 50-person startup. We do a bunch of machine learning to automate it all around customer service. Some of our customers are, for example, Ring. So for example, when you go to the website of Ring and you ask a question here, it's actually going to our UI and our backend, which is a bunch of machine learning, and across a bunch of websites to build a knowledge model which may or may not answer some of those questions automatically. Our stack is primarily Kubernetes on GCP, and then the backend we use for the most part Python and Node.js. And as I mentioned already, we use Pulumi for managing the infrastructure, but also the application. So that's kind of important. We don't like just split it up to VPCs and clusters, but we also deploy into our cluster using Pulumi. If you're interested about our stack in detail, you can actually go to this website. How and why do we use Pulumi over anything else? So in 2018, we started a project to modernize our entire infrastructure because we had a lot of problems with cost, stability, and velocity of deployment. And this was not just because there was a lot of things wrong. And we were using before that raw EC2 VMs, which are for the most part managed by Ansible, lots of custom bash scripts, a bit of Jenkins, and some steps which were documented or not, or in somebody's brain. A key decision at that time was, it was beginning of 2018, so Kubernetes was already fairly popular at the time, so we wanted to do something which looked very promising, and that was Kubernetes. And to run Kubernetes, we decided to use GKE on GCP because it takes away a lot of the burden of managing the cluster itself. And we started setting up a bunch of GCP projects and Kubernetes GKE clusters just using Terraform, and it was kind of working fine for the basic things. However, where the things were a little bit more ambiguous and not clear what to do was for deploying Kubernetes applications into your cluster. And we started just using raw or SAP templates of YAML files. We looked at Helm. Who in the audience actually has used Helm before? And who of you actually likes it? Yeah, so that's kind of the feeling we had. So Helm, it introduced a lot more complexity than problems it solves, in my opinion. We looked at Casey, which is conceptually great, but it uses a kind of awkward language. We looked at Audacity, Reflux, even tried out Terraform, and data by Terraform I think is not that great for deploying into Kubernetes. And then we used actually for a couple of months Forge, which is like similar to Scaffold. It builds your containers, templates a bunch of YAML and deploys into your cluster, but it's super opinionated and it cannot be really extended for some advanced use cases. So in August I found Pulumi, I tried it out, and I was from the get-go really impressed really on how good it was working for a product that literally just came out of private alpha 2 months ago. Such a young team, and it was honestly at the time already working better than a lot of the tools which have been out there for 1.5 years or so. And it gave a lot of confidence into the team and the company that this is like a good platform and better. And concretely, I think some of the two key advantages that I personally see with Pulumi is over most alternatives tools is that it has really the best-in-class Kubernetes support. And one reason for that is, like, when you look at the team, they have a bunch of folks which have been working for Kubernetes for a couple of years. They have folks who have worked a lot on language technologies. And what they do is actually they auto-generate a large part of the Kubernetes SDK by introspecting the Open API spec from the Kubernetes. And that's when Kubernetes 1.16 comes out, introducing a feature in Kubernetes. It's very likely that it's very soon in Pulumi, but not in a lot of the other tools. So, I mean, just to give you like an example, I'm actually putting some links. For example, Terraform, right, also has a Kubernetes provider. However, when you're looking into just the changelog, you can see, well, they added now support for, Kubernetes API service, and somewhere down here, they added support for deployments and things like that. In 2018, Kubernetes, the Terraform provider didn't support Kubernetes deployments, which is like so essential to anything you do with Kubernetes, so it was not practically usable. They added it in the meantime, but there's always a large delay compared to Pulumi, because Pulumi auto-generates everything. Terraform has to have like hand code support for each resource. And the next, the other benefit is basically, the other big benefit is you can just use your regular programming language, which is TypeScript. And you can also use Python, but we use the TypeScript variant of it. And it's so easy, right? We happen to know and use it already before. It's not like we need to learn this, DSL, I'm by background actually software engineer, and I'm used to use really major high-level languages. And when I started doing all this infrastructure stuff, I was like, why does everybody needs to invent their own DSL for everything? So it's like, it just didn't make any sense. And Pulumi is great, and just leverage all the existing ecosystem. So they use for package management, they use it for NPM, for editor support, TypeScript and JavaScript is well supported by almost any editor. You get code compilation, static type validation, and you also get to use a lot of reuse libraries. And a lot of those reuse libraries, they're not really written for usage in with Pulumi, but sometimes they come actually really handy. So if you just need to convert, for example, a TOML file into a YAML file, you can actually do this super easy with the JavaScript library, right? And then deploy this YAML file. And sometimes you have use cases where you have an application where you need to inject a TOML file in GitLab runner, for example. And most importantly, you can basically use a single tool and language both for your core infrastructure and the deployment of the applications. And in our case, even the application code itself. So basically we're using one language for oftentimes 3 different things. So with that in mind, just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the best practices that we established in our company over the last couple of months on how you structure your projects and repositories. So typically speaking, what you have is a core infrastructure repository in which you deploy, in which you put your VPCs and clusters, and some stuff like a database. Basically, kind of resources which are shared by a lot of your services, a lot of developers. And I can actually show you real quick how that looks in our case. So this is actually this infrastructure core repository. And we have a bunch of subdirectories here. And for example, we have like a Solvvy dev project here, which underneath contains like a project, which is actually a Pulumi project, which creates the VPCs, configures some DNS stuff, and some IAM roles and things like that. Then another high-level project we have is API cluster dev, which actually sets up a Kubernetes cluster and installs a bunch of like common services into it. One such service is, for example, Cloud DNS Manager, which actually here it's just like a small reuse library or modular which deploys Kube external DNS, which is a Kubernetes extension, into the cluster. And it looks very YAML-ish, but it's kind of TypeScript, right? I use actually this thing here, this Cloud DNS Manager class, in all of our clusters, and I just import it here and say, well, use this as the main filter and things like that. And this is going to deploy the cluster so that the cluster actually manages our DNS entries for applications that we have deployed into that cluster. The next thing, and what I wanted to mention is what you should, oops, that was the wrong application. The next thing is you should be aware of this feature called stack reference in Pulumi. So what you can actually do, if you have multiple projects or stacks which just somehow have some dependency in between, you can actually pass using stack reference information from one to another. And commonly you have this, for example, in our case, we have like here one project called Solvvy base environment, which sets up our database. And what I'm here exporting is actually like the IP address of the database and some connection strings for certain schemas in the database. And then in our application repositories, I can just import that connection string in my application. And so that way I don't have to, when somehow something changes, maybe I change the IP of the database server in the future, I don't have to create another commit on top in the other repository. I just redeploy it at the repository so that that reads the new value from that stack reference. And I don't have to copy around mention randomly values, so to say. The next thing I want to talk about is like, generally speaking, you should create like your own reuse library for your internal usage, which basically has a few certain best practices and a few things that you often use. So in our case, well, we use GCP and GKE, so a lot of the reuse library stuff is around that. And in fact, I've actually just uploaded kind of a cleaned up version of, I can hide this here. Show an example. So let me just show it to you here. So basically we have this reuse library. It's actually really just an NPM package that we have a separate GitHub repository, and this reuse library, for example, has something called Node app. And it has also actually an app. Let's look at this one. So the app one actually is just a Kubernetes Pulumi component resource, which pulls in together a bunch of things. For example, Kubernetes it builds a Docker image, it creates a container, puts that container somewhere down here into deployment, and it also creates like pod disruption budgets if you have like specified some arguments. And also creates a Kubernetes servers, depending on if you have set, for example, the Arc servers exposed to cluster internal. And like this kind of, because this pattern happens very often when we work with Kubernetes, that you need to build Docker image, create deployment, and create a service on top, we have just forwarded that into this app class. And inside our applications, we just import this class and pass a bunch of arguments to it. For the sake of time, I'm going to skip. Like we have some GKE utilities, which are actually pretty handy. But I've actually published the whole library on GitHub, so I'm going to show you the link in the ending. But in general, I would say don't over-engineer this library. Don't don't wrap everything of Kubernetes into some giant class or something like that. We just always every once or 2 weeks we add a new property to this reuse library, which had been used in our case. And oftentimes I'm doing that, but sometimes also other people. And last but not least, you have application repositories. And those are basically your repositories where where's your Python or Node.js or your code that in our case happens to be deployed via Pulumi as well. And in those, we actually use this Pulumi util library. So I can actually show you that real quick. So for example here, I've actually prepared a small demo app. If somebody could pull the microphone real quick or something, so I've actually prepared a small demo app here. It's just a Node.js application, and I haven't created any configuration for that application yet. But I'm just going to create really quick the code to deploy this via Pulumi using this reuse library. So the first thing, I have to just create a Pulumi YAML file, which basically defines the Pulumi runtime I'm using and the name of it. And now I'm actually creating a subdirectory. So that's kind of a convention. We have create a subdirectory info in which the only code lives and which information goes on. Then I'm initializing package JSON, and now I'm actually installing this Pulumi Reuse library. We publish this just on NPM. You won't be able to access it. It's a private NPM instance, but as I said, I publish it on GitHub. So it installs that, and now in this info subdirectory, I'm just creating a small index file where we say import Solvvy Pulumi util, and I say Solvvy app, and I say new Solvvy app, and it has a lot of parameters, but for the default case, the only thing you need to actually pass is the build context, which is kind of the working directory from which we will build the Docker image. And last but not least, we also need a Docker image. And I could go here and just create a Docker image, but honestly, the Docker image happens to be so similar for a lot of our cases that we put a bunch of Docker files into that npm package itself, and I can actually just reference it by saying dockerfile.node.js, and then it's importing that reference from the utility library and uses that predefined Docker image. And last but not least, the only thing I need to do, I need to say which GCP project I want to deploy it into, and which cluster I want to deploy it into. And that is basically everything I need to do. I think I have done one of them incorrectly. I had created I had imported the Pulumi util writer library in the wrong place. I need to import it in this infrastructure. So last thing I'm getting that basically now the only thing I need to do is I need to run Pulumi up, skip preview, and now it's actually going to deploy it's built into Docker image, it deploys it into a Kubernetes cluster, it adds a bunch of very useful default configurations, and that's basically about it. You can see the source graph here. That's basically for the demo part, I guess. Last but not least, you should really think about some naming conventions for your projects and stacks. So we, for example, always name our stacks with dash environment name, like dash staging or dash prod. And we use this convention, we introspect in a lot of cases the context on which stack we are in, and depending on that we deal with some if then else branching. So, yeah. Last but not least, I think when you work with Kubernetes and also still with Pulumi, you still oftentimes have to deal with YAML. And it's actually very useful to know that you can convert YAML very quickly into Pulumi configuration just by converting it to a JavaScript JSON object literal, which you pipe to your TypeScript file, and then you format it. So, for example, if I want to use, I don't know, like let's say this example here, just copying some random stuff from the internet, and which you probably often find examples in YAML for Kubernetes. And in order now to just use this in my So basically, now, so I just use this kind of one-liner here, which uses a bit of Python to convert this into a JavaScript object literal, and paste it in. So now I basically have here a bunch of JSON. And I can say here group KS core we want pods, and basically say my pod, this is now already valid Pulumi configuration. So that's what I do actually a lot, so just using stuff on the internet. Alright, last but not least, I think the last message I have, choose a good CI/CD system. I've tried out about, I don't know, 20 CI/CD systems over the last 1.5 years. They all suck in one way or another, to be honest. The better ones, like some important features for me are to have like manual approvals. So because we deploy everything, we have Pulumi jobs. Sometimes when you want production, you want to have a manual, like you want to have a manual step that you need to manually approve the UI. And last but not least, a feature called environment tracking, where the CI/CD system is able actually to track which jobs have deployed to a production or staging environment, and then being able to roll them there. And some of the better CI/CD systems I've used in conjunction with Pulumi are GitHub CI, Azure DevOps, and Circus CI. We nowadays actually use Circus CI, which is kind of an exotic one, but it actually works pretty great for us. Check it out if you have some curiosity and are dissatisfied with your current CI system. And I think that is basically the essence of what I wanted to deliver today. Here is the GitHub repository, which contains basically this Pulumi util library, which I've shown before. There's a bunch of good goodies there that you can use in your own company perhaps. Alright, thanks.